So, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction. For those of you who are on the right of the political spectrum, then this class is not going to appeal to you that much, because this class is going to go through the Torah's outlook regarding the treatment of animals in the Torah.
Camden's very for animal rights.
Camden is
not
very
animal rights,
for
but he's
animal
very
rights.
for animals. He likes animals, right?
I like animals.
All right.
I think you should treat them right, and eat them, and then you should eat them.
Okay, so I want to give an introduction. Guys, if we could have the phones off for just 25 minutes, really appreciate it. Guys, take a look at this rabbi. This rabbi's name is Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. Okay? This is possibly the greatest rabbi who's ever lived in the last, I would say, 150 years, especially in the Sephardic world. Okay? In the Sephardic world. Okay? This Rabbi Ovadia Yosef had, take a guess, how many people showed up at his eulogy, at his funeral in Jerusalem. He died approximately 3 to 4 years ago. Okay? 450,000. Okay, keep going.
700,000.
700,000.
Million?
Okay, they approximate about a million. Okay, they are saying that since the time of Moses, there has never been such a big Jewish funeral as Chacham Ovadia Yosef.
Wait,
the reason
but
why,
Moses didn't die.
huh?
Moses didn't die.
Moses did die. Hashem took him in the
But
easiest
nobody
form
knows
of
where
it.
he buried.
They don't know where he's buried, but they were with him
It was
the last day of his life. It was even I don't know.
No, he died on the spot, and they left him there because he was in a cave. He was underground.
Right.
How do you know?
Well, it says that he died. He died with neshika. Neshika is
A kiss.
neshika it's literally that means it's a kiss. But it's the Gemara says that the death of neshika.
I thought that God just told him walk to the mountain and then he just disappeared and nobody knew where he is. So what was the actual story? He was in a cave. He went to the mountain.
I don't think it's clear where he was. We don't know where he's buried. I think he might be buried on somewhere in the mountains of Jordan. No, because the Jewish people were facing Jericho at the time that Moses died, and then when Joshua took over, they came into Israel through Jericho. Miriam, if I can ask you for that remote when you come back, I want to turn off that screen. Okay, this individual, okay, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was an encyclopedia. He knew literally all of Torah in all its facets. Okay, he was credited with liberating a lot of women who were stuck as agunas after the Yom Kippur War. Does anybody know? Thank you so much. Anybody know what an aguna is?
Where their husband, where your husband is,
The husband didn't give her guns.
is missing after, during or after a war.
Very good.
So you don't know.
Right? If a woman's husband is lost, even if you are assuming that he died, if you don't have a way of ascertaining for sure, right, whether that person was killed or not, okay, then that is not enough to necessarily permit the woman to marry someone else. She's called an aguna. She's kind of like stuck in limbo, and it's very, very unfortunate, and it's very, very sad when these situations happen.
But nowadays it still happen when the husband's not giving a get to his wife. That's still a guna.
That's different.
Sorry?
When he's not.
No, once a husband gives a get to his wife, she's free.
Yeah,
No,
but
that's
if
why
he
in
doesn't
some-
give a
He
get,
doesn't.
Uh-huh.
if he doesn't give a get,
Same thing. The husband refuses to give a get to his wife, and they're not together. She's also in limbo. She's I don't know if that's what we call aguna. Maybe it's what we. Maybe that woman would also be called an aguna. Either way, so all the rabbis, none of the rabbis were able to find a way to permit those women to their husbands. But Rabbi Ovadia took the task upon himself, and he locked himself up in his house for something like 3 months. okay, analyzing every single text available to him in the Torah. And I don't know the details, but he was successfully able to find different loopholes that are legitimate in Torah law that enabled literally tens, if not hundreds, of Israeli women who didn't know what happened to their husbands because of the war to go ahead and marry and remarry.
Wait,
so
did they ever find out what happened to these?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But that's pretty awkward, you know, if he shows up again. That's kind of like that scene from Pearl Harbor where everybody thought that Rafe died, but then you didn't see it, and you're missing
It was
out.
also in
It's in a lot of
Homeland.
movies.
The Israeli version of Homeland, the original one.
I don't
It's
know.
also a scene.
I don't know what that is. Okay, so it seems. So now, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was known to write many halachic responsa on a whole bunch of different issues. He's got books that could fill up this room. That's how incredible he was. Okay, and someone apparently asked him if it's permissible in Jewish law to participate in the watching of bullfighting. Okay, what could potentially be the problem? So, I'm going to go through the responsa with you, and we'll go through different points that are included. First of all, but I want to ask you all what you think about it. First of all, have any of you ever watched a bullfight? Have any of you seen clips of it on YouTube? Any of you know what it is? Can somebody tell all of us what it is? Danielle?
I've been to one.
Huh?
I've been to one. But it's like kind of like a theatrical, it's an artistic form of a matador and like the risk and daredevilry that they're willing to put and how close they'll get to the bull. But I mean, it's a very slow death. The end result is it's either ultimately the guy or the bull. It's a gamecock match. Have any of you ever read White Fang?
No.
Yeah.
You read White Fang? Whoever hasn't read White Fang, please get out. I'm just joking. It's like one of the best books in the world, okay? So there's this what? So long ago. I read it as a kid also.
Have you seen the movie?
Was it an
No,
animation?
but the movie's based on the book, and the book is usually better than the movie.
The book is usually better than the movie, but it doesn't mean it was a bad movie.
I never said the movie's bad. I'm just saying
I
that.
haven't seen the movie, but I read
I'm
the
just
book
saying
when I
the
was like
book
11.
is surely better. There is a part of this book, if I remember correctly, where they have this guy who is making money off gamecock matches. What that means is different people bring their dogs and they bet on their dogs and they put them in a cage.
Is it not dog fight?
Yeah,
Dog fights, but it's to the death. They put these dogs in a
dog
cage.
fights.
A dog fight, okay, but there's a fancier term for it.
This
And they put them in the cage. They put them in the cage and basically,
With chickens.
huh?
Cockfights with chickens.
basically.
It's called, the chapter is called White Fang and the Gamecocks or something like that. I don't know. Gamecocks is a terminology for putting two living things in the same cage where it's do or die, where it's to the death, okay? So they put these dogs in the cage, and all of a sudden White Fang is put in the cage, and he's killing dog after dog after dog, and he's winning and he's winning and he's winning. Finally, he faces off against this bulldog, and this bulldog, tiny little bulldog, but it has an ability to handle its pain. It doesn't lose its senses just because it's being slashed or bitten. So the bulldog manages to latch its teeth onto White Fang's throat. And I remember as a kid, even though White Fang is like killing dog after dog, White Fang is like the good guy in the book. So you want White Fang doing. And all of a sudden, in the chapter, it's making it seem like the bulldog is slowly choking the life out of White Fang, and you start hating the bulldog. That evil bulldog! Okay, I'm sorry. But so the bulldog is like eating and eating away at White Fang. Okay, I don't know why I'm getting carried away with this book. But either way, so the same thing is with bullfights. They show up, and you have this Mexican guy or Spanish guy wearing really fancy clothing, and apparently bulls are attracted to red. And what he does is he provokes the bull to charge at him, and it's all fancy, and people are watching this. And what adds to the excitement is the fact that there's no safety precaution here. This Mexican or Spanish guy, if he does the wrong move at the wrong time, and forgive my French, pisses off that cow too harshly, then that cow is literally going to horn and gore that man to the death. Okay, so there is an element of excitement to that. We are a funny species as human beings that we enjoy watching this stuff. Gladiator comes to mind. Okay, and if you watch that movie, it's like my favorite movie of all time. Okay, they have right? Yes, who hasn't? Okay. What do you think we did between yeshiva?
I said not Interstellar.
Huh?
I said not
Interstellar is good also.
Same music.
Is it?
Same music.
Who, Hans Zimmer?
Yeah.
Okay. So, same thing in Gladiator. The people had entertainment by watching other people fight and even kill each other. So the question is like this, okay? We are Jewish. Whenever we are for something or against something, it's not just because. It's not because we want to be difficult or annoying or, we can't have fun, we're Jewish. It's not really like that. The truth is that we have, as the people of the book, as the chosen people, as the people of God, we have to behave on a higher level. And we're going to see that Rabbi Ovadia brings, and everything is sourced from the Torah. We are going to see from Rabbi Ovadia different sources that show that as a people, right, as a Jewish people, our Torah does not promote the idea of bringing needless, unnecessary suffering to any living being. For sure a human being, but even to an animal, and even to the lowliest of animals, okay? Except for cockroaches. I don't know. The truth is, there must be some, how do you say in English, heter? There must be some allowance for cockroaches because those are difficult. Like, whatever.
It's pikuach nefesh.
Pikuach nefesh, right? They don't die? I would tend to agree. In fact, I think I read somewhere, or somebody told me once, that if there were like a nuclear war, they would be the only species to survive such a cataclysmic event.
The radiation,
Not the blast.
No one can survive the blast. They can survive the radiation, not the suffocation from the ash.
It's okay.
Nuclear fallout.
That's true.
The ash.
That's getting particular and detailed.
They can survive it. They can survive it. If you put them in a microwave, they'll survive.
Yeah?
What?
Right.
Oh, I don't want to try it, but that's terrifying.
What? 1 second. A cockroach would survive a microwave? That's disturbing.
Wait.
Okay, so the question that was so Danielle gave us Danielle gave us the explanation of what bullfighting is. Now, what she didn't mention, she probably knows this, is that bulls aren't naturally aggravated. Okay? Bulls aren't naturally excited and looking to kill. Somehow, magically, every time there's a bullfight, these bulls are really, really aggravated. What's getting them aggravated? So Rabbi Ovadia did his research, and it doesn't take a rocket science to do this kind of research, but they have mechanisms by which they excite and anger these bulls to make it entertaining. Included in those mechanisms is depriving the bull of sleep, whipping the bull, wrapping an elastic band around the bull's testicles and snapping it, whatever that means. And they really put the bull through a great degree of pain, let alone the pain that's going on during the bullfight. Because is there a name for the dude? Matador? Thank you, that'll help me. Okay? The matador is given, a jaded or blunted sword. It's specifically jagged, or whatever it is. We'll just say blunted, okay? It's not a hyper sharp sword because then where's the fun? He'll just slash it at the cow and at the bull will die. It's a specifically designed sword that makes it that the matador needs a few tries and goes before actually killing the bull. So the bull doesn't die immediately, but the bull before the fight and during the fight is put through a lot of different hardships. Yes, Chaim?
But they're doing the same thing in the rodeo when the bull riders have to ride on the bull. They're not naturally angry. They just, as you said,
they're excited.
They don't cut the bull
you think it's fun
they do
to
wrap the thing around it.
Yeah, they wrap.
They do that to anger it, but they don't do.
You think it's fun to have that done?
No, of course not.
I think it's.
But it's more legitimate by Texans to bull ride.
Rabbi Grossman told me something today, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this over. I'll say it anyways. He said that the story goes that there was a guy who was visiting Spain, and it was during the season where they have these bullfights. So he went to this restaurant, and one of the prime delicacies it's called Rocky Mountain oysters.
Oh, I've heard of that.
So Rocky Mountain oysters is a delicacy which consists of bull testicles. So he shows up at the restaurant and he sees someone eating them and they look delicious. and he asks the restaurant manager, "Hey, can I get some of those? Can I get some of those?" And the guy says, "I'm sorry, this is all based on the daily rodeo or whatever, and we only, we're limited quantity. We only serve them at one set time of the day. You want these? You have to order them in advance, and we'll serve them for you." So he said, "Okay, so I'm going to come back tomorrow." So he comes back the next day, and they serve him, and they look a lot smaller. So he's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "The bull won that." He said the bull won today. So when Rabbi Grossman told me that one, I was on the phone. I'm sorry. I apologize to the Facebook crowd out there. But anyways, so the question that was asked to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef was, is it permissible for a Jew to actually go to one of these bullfights and watch what's going on? Watch what's going on. Okay? To answer this question, we have to really ask the greater question of what does the Torah say about how, as human beings, we are meant to relate to animals. We do believe in Judaism that we are superior to animals. We have the power of free will. We understand that God created the world for us, for our ability to achieve closeness to the Almighty, to exercise our free will decisions, to do mitzvot, and to get closer to Hashem. We have this inner divinity to us. We were created b'tzelem Elokim. We were created, as it were, somehow, in the image of the Almighty, whatever that means. Again, you have to remember that when talking about God, we can never attribute any sort of physicality or finiteness to God. That would be limiting God, and there's no such thing as limiting God. God is the infinite, okay? So we understand that we are superior and we are more elevated than animals. Having said that, does that mean that we are allowed, okay, to do whatever we want with animals? So it depends. Before we see this, I just want to make a general rule that in general, we are allowed to do what we need to do with animals if it's to service man for a productive purpose. So you mentioned that technically they are kosher, okay, bull testicles. The answer is if the animal is shechted according to halachic law, then yeah, I don't know any Jew that eats that kind of stuff, but technically speaking, it is kosher. There was a show, I don't know if it still exists, when I was younger, they had this show. It was the most revolting, nauseating show ever. Have any of you ever heard of Fear Factor? I'm just hyperventilating just thinking of that show. So they start off this with, it's a tournament. You ever heard of this, Danielle? They start off with 10 or 15 people, and they make them go through grueling tasks. Okay, one of them is awful. They put him in this box, and his head is above this surface. You don't want to hear this. We're gonna say it anyways. Okay, and they put this glass box above his head. So all he has, his head is closed off. So he's in this box, right? He's sitting in a chair, and he's got this box above his head. And there's a hole above the box, and they're slipping in these snakes and scorpions and cockroaches.
Oh no!
And they're not. They make a point of letting you know, don't worry, they're not deadly, they're not poisonous, nothing will happen to you. And as if that makes it easier on the guy, And they basically play on everybody's phobias. Another one, they put the guy on a huge 50-foot extended platform that's shaky, that's suspended by a crane, and obviously you're attached by your foot, just by your foot. So you won't die, but it's not as if you're connected, so people that have fear of heights, this is insane because it's this shaky platform. You're basically looking down 50 feet below, and you have to go around this whole obstacle thing. See, Miriam's even getting nervous at my story, right? And the cockroaches is awful. Yeah. Yeah, the heights. You see, Shira, it's the heights. For me, it's all of the above.
A few of the missions they give them was to eat a few stuff.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Okay, so then there's another one. This one's the worst of them all. Okay, they have this, and you have to really be impressed. What kind of sick people get these ideas? Okay, there's this other one where they have this massive, huge basin full of worms, and the goal is, you have to go barefoot into this canister, this massive basin, and you have to stomp.
I'm eating.
I'm sorry. You have to stomp. And what happens is the surface of the ground grabs the juices and filters it through a tube into a glass. I'm sorry, Daniel. The person that stomps on the worms fastest, that fills up the glass fastest, that then drinks that cup fastest. He's done with the pizza. Mission accomplished. I'm sorry. Wins. Okay. So now, right? So either way, the question was, are you allowed to go? Okay, so we're going to begin. So Rabbi Johnny Ouzzan says like this. You listening? There is no doubt that the very concept of bullfighting is totally contrary to the spirit of our holy Torah. What does it mean? There is a Gemara, a Talmud in Yevamot that calls Jewish people, we are a people that are modest, compassionate, and we act with kindness. And therefore, he says that the traits involved in the culture of bullfighting goes contrary to those three traits.
By the way,
cruelty, yes.
These three traits I heard from another rabbi that he took these three traits and make an acronym out of it. The acronym is Gever.
Who's that?
By Shanim, 1 second. By Shanim, Rachmanim, Gomel Chazanim. Say it again. Gever? Yeah, it is Gever. Yeah, it's Gomel Chazanim by Shanim, Rachmanim.
So one rabbi just asked, you know what Gever actually means?
Right.
Gever is
man.
Right. So either way, so Rabbi Ovadia starts off, first of all, by saying, right, that it is not befitting the spirit of the Jew to be involved in an activity that really represents a nature that is really cruel at its core. Okay? He continues. The prohibition to cause pain to an animal is a biblical one. If any of you know, the Torah says explicitly that if you find the animal of your friend or your enemy crouching and suffering under a heavy load and burden, right, you have to help your friend unload that donkey. What do we learn from the Gemara? From the fact that the Talmud is bringing a verse from the Torah to teach you that there is this concept of a prohibition from causing pain to an animal, we see that it is a biblical prohibition. Okay? Now, the Torah then says, right, and the source for this is if you see your enemy's donkey lying under its burden, would you refrain from helping him? You shall surely help along with him. Okay? Now, this is not the only pasuk that we see that gives us an insight into how we are meant to deal with animals. The Torah also has another one which teaches us that you're not supposed to put a donkey and an ox on carrying the same carriage, because maybe it'll arouse a jealousy. We see that the angel that stopped Bilam, right? Huh?
Jealousy. I
don't know. Maybe competition. I don't know.
Maybe injury to one versus the other.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. But there is right? An ox and a donkey are not allowed to plow together. Another thing, you're not allowed to muzzle a cow while it's threshing. It's painful. It's going through a field full of food, and you're not allowing it to eat. That's called Tsar Balei Chaim. You're not allowed to do that. Another thing, when the wicked Bilam was heading to Balak to go and curse the Jewish people, he's on his donkey, and what happens? The donkey stops. Why does the donkey stop? The Torah tells us that the donkey, with its own vision, was able to see an angel. And the angel had a sword that was unsheathed, right? So Bilam didn't see the angel. Bilam asks the angel, Bilam asks the donkey, what are you doing? So the angel asked Bilam, why did you hit your donkey 3 times? The implication from what the angel was telling Bilam is that what you did in hitting your hitting your donkey was wrong. You have no business abusing your own animal, right?
Actually, in this story, the donkey answered.
Sorry?
The donkey answered to Bilam.
Yes, it did. Which is very interesting, because you would think that Bilam would, think twice before answering back to the donkey. I don't know about you. If your dog started talking back at you, would you answer back to your dog, or would you say, hey, wait a second, you're talking,
Bilam,
right?
You about... No, not him. Maybe we would, but not him. He was...
No?
No, who he was. He was like...
Yeah, but see, it was never normal for animals to talk. Even for Bilam.
No, but
right?
He believed in God.
Even right now.
He believed in God. So do we, and we don't believe that animals talk.
No, but we believe that they can if God wants them to.
Yeah, but how often has that ever
but
happened?
Bill,
The question is...
You wouldn't be shocked if you saw a dog talking?
I think
would be.
what's wrong with me first?
Oh.
No, my question is, okay, the donkey's talking. Now, he obviously should know that comes from God. Why is he not listening to the donkey? He carries on his donkey.
It's not really coming from God.
Why is he carrying on the conversation with the donkey is the question. That's what's weird. Okay, that's a separate question for a different time. But we want to know, how serious is the prohibition to cause pain to an animal? So there's a very fascinating story in the Talmud of the Gemara which talks about an animal, true story, that an animal fell into some sort of well or water reservoir on Shabbat. And it was impossible to get the animal out because the water was very deep. So the question was, is the person allowed on Shabbat to take pillows and blankets and throw them in the water so that and you put a ton of them in the water so that eventually it's high enough that the animal itself can climb out? You're all thinking, well, Rabbi, what the heck is wrong with putting pillows or sheets in a well on Shabbat? The answer is there's something in Shabbat called muktzeh. Muktzeh is, okay, you're not allowed to move an object, okay, that has no purposeful use on Shabbat. There's many, many categories of that. Here, the issue is there's a separate rabbinical prohibition of bittul kli mehechano. What is bittul kli mehechano? You're not allowed to take an object and change its usage on Shabbat. So since a pillow and blankets are normally used permissibly on Shabbat for resting and sleeping, by you now taking them away from their use and using them as stepping stones instead, there is a rabbinical prohibition involved there where you are changing the function. You are kind of destroying its future function as a pillow and a blanket. It's kind of like an offshoot of the malacha, the activity of demolishing. You know, in Torah law, what are we not allowed to do on Shabbat? Anything that is an offshoot, anything that is related to the 39 levels of creative activity which were involved in the creation of the world. The Mishkan, the tabernacle. Very good, right? Now, included in the creation of the tabernacle was was building it, and what's the opposite of building it, Danielle, the architect?
Destroying.
Not destroying, disassembling?
Yeah.
Is that the word? Demolishing? Not really demolishing, because you want to reassemble it after. They never demolished it. They disassembled it. Yeah. Disassemble, whatever the word. Okay? So because that was involved in the creation of the Mishkan, anything that is related to that activity is exactly what's not permissible on Shabbat. Now, believe it or not, this guy who wants to get the animal out is allowed to violate this rabbinical prohibition of changing the function of a utensil, of an item. A utensil in Jewish terms can also be referring to a pillow and a sheet. Right? And why is he allowed to do that? If the rabbis instituted this law that you're not allowed to take an item on Shabbat and use it and change its purpose.
Because the rabbis made that rule.
Yes.
God made the other rule.
So we just finished saying how the prohibition against causing suffering to an animal is biblical in nature. Okay? A biblical prohibition supersedes a rabbinical one. So here he has a choice. If he doesn't do anything, the animal's going to suffer. If the animal is going to suffer, that's a violation of the biblical prohibition of Tzar Balei Chaim. And if he puts the pillow and the sheet in, he's violating the rabbinical prohibition. The rabbis tell us that you are allowed to violate a rabbinical prohibition in order to prevent you from violating the biblical prohibition. Make sense? Okay, so that's how we see how important it is. Okay? So now, Chacham Ovadia explains that what goes on during these bullfights, they starve and pain the animal before it gets into the arena in the stadium. After that, they provoke it and prod it with weapons so it will go wild, jump, and gore with its horns. Our rabbis, in contrast, prohibited eating a meal before feeding one's animal. How many of you own pets? None of you own pets.
I used to.
You used to? So it seems from here that it is a very admirable attribute for you to first feed your pet before feeding yourself. And we see a few proofs of that. Number one is we know that when Abraham sent Eliezer to go find a wife for his son Isaac, what was the test that Eliezer spoke to God and said, God, I'm going to give you a test that if this test is fulfilled, I will know that it's the right woman. See? You want to remind us what that test was? If the girl will feed the camels first, then I know that this is a girl that is befitting to marry into the Abrahamic dynasty. Why? Because this is a person of caring. If this person is putting an animal before mankind, this is a person of extreme sensitivity. And sure enough, who's that girl? Rebecca. Rivka goes ahead and she offers Eliezer to first feed the camels, as well, right? So, and not just that. We say every day in the Shema, we say, V'natati Esev, that if we follow in the ways of God, what will be our reward if we follow the ways of God? And I will give grass in your fields, livhemtecha, for your animals. And after that, the pasuk then says, and you, the human being, will eat and be satisfied. So here we have another hint from the fact that God tells us that as a reward for following in his ways, he will give food for our animals, and he will give us a way of feeling satisfied and fulfilled. We see that the animal comes first. Again, this is not to mean that the animal is more elevated than the human being. What this means is, as a human being, it's more elevated to be sensitive to the needs of your animals. Okay? So there we go. So then he continues and tells us how even to the lowest animal and rodent, a person has an obligation to show kindness to them as well. And he brings a very, very strange story that occurred with Rabbi Judah the Prince. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, just to give you a tiny little introduction, was the top rabbi that lived in Roman times, who was the one responsible for the writing and ratifying of the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the basis for the oral law. It used to be given orally. It includes all of the principles of the Torah. Eventually, at some point, the Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi realized that if we don't commit this to writing, we are going to be in big, big trouble because we're not going to be able to retain and remember all of the information, right? So he put it into writing. Listen to this story. There was a calf that was being led to slaughter. It moved away and inclined its head towards Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince. And it started crying, as if it was telling Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, please, get me out of this, right? This animal was on its way to get slaughtered. Slaughtered meaning, I guess, for a korban, for a ritual sacrifice. I'm just going to turn the AC on a little bit, right? So it turned its head, it saw that it was going to get sacrificed. It turned its head towards Rabbi Judah the Prince, as if to say, save me. And what did he say back to it? He said to the calf, go, this is what you were created for. God created you to be a korban. Now the truth is, what he was saying wasn't false. It's just what he was basically showing a certain lack of sensitivity for the animal. And the Gemara says that because he didn't show mercy, then Hashem, God, sent him suffering. Okay, there was, I don't know what kind of suffering, but the Gemara says that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi had some suffering that occurred to him as a result of him having treated this animal with this kind of lack of mercy. Now, you should know, though, that in general, when an animal is being used in a holy fashion to service a human being, that is elevating the divinity of that living thing. Okay, remember, there is divinity, there is godliness in everything. In this chair, it's not the same divinity that a human being has, but in animals, in nature, right? Hashem is everywhere, and part of Hashem's spirituality exists in every living thing. For an animal to be used as a way of getting closer to God, like in a meal when you make a bracha, water when you're drinking, an animal that you're eating as part of a Shabbat dinner, etc., etc. A korban, that is in fact a way to elevate the meal. So it's not that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi was wrong in saying go because that's why you were created. It's just the way he said that. Now listen to this. The Gemara continues and says that Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, who was known as, his acronym was Rebbe. He was known as Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, his suffering ended because of the following episode. What happened? One day, his maidservant was sweeping the house, and there were some baby weasels on the floor, and she started sweeping them out. Rebbe, the master, looked at the maidservant and he said, you know what? Leave them, because it says in Psalms, King David wrote in Psalms, his mercy spreads over all of his works. Right? So he quoted a verse from Tehillim, from Psalms, where he's basically doing teshuvah and showing how, you know what, let's have mercy on these weasels. And the Gemara says that whoever is merciful will receive mercy from heaven. So we see that sometimes a person needs to go through this kind of an episode to appreciate the sensitivity of others. And you know what, I don't know if any of you are knowledgeable in Bible study, but there's a famous story of King David when he was running away from King Saul. King Saul mistakenly thought that his son-in-law David was usurping the throne and trying to overthrow him when David really was doing nothing of the sort. And Shaul made it his life's mission to kill King David. And there's a whole bunch of chapters that discuss King Saul chasing after him and missing him by an eyelash, whatever. At one point, Shaul goes into a cave because he has to take care of his bodily needs, and David was in that cave. And miraculously, there was a spider that was there at the time that miraculously built an extremely fast and impressive spider web that caused Shaul to think, oh, you know what? It can't be that that King David is here because this must have been, right? Webs usually mean that this place hasn't been, what? Hasn't been disturbed in a while, right? And what does King David do? Just not to get too far off on a tangent, but King David has an opportunity while King Saul is doing his duty, right? He takes his knife and he cuts a tiny piece of cloth from King Saul's cape. He waits for Saul to get out of the cave. David comes out of the cave and he raises the piece of cloth and he shows King Saul, look, I had an opportunity to kill you and I didn't. I need you to realize that I'm not trying to take you over. That didn't help. Shaul still tried killing David, and in the end, Shaul ended up getting killed for it. Now, bear in mind, King David was also punished, and here we see how God is a God of justice. Even if Shaul was a tzaddik, was a righteous person, and King David was a tzaddik, a righteous person, on their level, they each still got a certain degree of justice and punishment for what they did on their level. There is a rule in Judaism that the higher and more elevated you are, the more you are held to a higher standard. And the punishment that David got for disrespecting royalty, okay, by tearing the garment of the king, was that from then on till the rest of his life, David could never find warmth. Okay, he was always cold. That's why they had to hire a woman to bring him warmth. Anyways.
That's how he died.
Huh?
That's how he died.
Sorry?
Isn't that how he died eventually?
Who? David? No.
No,
He didn't die because of coldness, no. He died at the age of 70. It says that Adam, the first human being, was supposed to live to 1,000. He lived to 930. He gave 70 of his years to King David. Let's talk hunting. What do you all think about hunting? Have any of you ever been hunting? Okay. What is hunting? It's a sport. It's a sport, right?
Fishing,
huh?
Does fishing count if you eat it?
No, fishing is not hunting.
Does fishing count as hunting?
Depends for the reason.
I would say, I don't know, it's a good question. I wonder if fishing is hunting.
If you do it for the purpose of the fish.
Yeah,
Fish do not need shechita. That's an important factor here. When you kill an animal not with shechita, you are instantly disqualifying that animal from being kosher. That's the issue with eating meat in a non-kosher restaurant. People think, oh, I'm not eating pork, I'm eating cow, it's okay. The truth is that the chances of that cow having been ritually slaughtered by the Torah's system of shechita...
The non-kosher slaughterhouse, they're not doing shechita, they're just shooting them in the head.
Exactly. So I think I read somewhere...
The whole purpose of shechita is not to prevent the animal from suffering.
Yeah.
So I did hear that shechita is the least painful method of killing an animal. Apparently the two pipes that are immediately cut are the ones that are connected to the nerves in the brain. So as soon as they're cut, the animal no longer can feel any pain. I don't know if it's true. We'll never know. We can never be a cow. But what was I saying? So anytime an animal that requires shechita is killed not with shechita, okay, that disqualifies that animal from being kosher. You cannot re-kosherize an animal. Okay, so even a kosher animal that wasn't shechted is not kosher.
So
a fish does not need shechita. All a fish needs is scales and fins. And if I'm not mistaken, any fish that has fins has scales, or vice versa. I always forget.
No, there's some fish that
Huh?
Sharks have fins that have scales.
So maybe it's the opposite. Every fish that has scales has fins.
Eels have scales.
Eels do not have scales. Eels do not have scales. Eels do not have scales.
Sea snakes.
Sea snakes?
Sea snake is not kosher.
Right, because it's got scales but nothing.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Okay. So it could be that fish would be. So it could be that fish are permissible for that reason because you're not really doing away with the fish. You're hopefully fishing in order to eat it. And if you're not, then it's a good question. Then you can release it. If you release it, maybe it's okay. Now, he says that you're not allowed to kill an animal that was not allowed by Shechita. Meaning this that we kill animals today in order to be able to eat them is really an exemption. It's not that we're allowed. It's not that we are allowed to kill for food. It's that we're not allowed to kill animals, but for shechita, for eating through shechita, you are allowed.
So hunting, according to Judaism, is not.
So we're getting there, right? That's right. So what's interesting, this is the first time I heard this, is that if an animal actually gores another human being, you're not allowed to put that animal to death without it being tried in front of a court of 23. Isn't that interesting? I found that fascinating.
What?
Right?
You have to catch the animal?
If an animal gored and killed a man, okay, then it can only be put to death through a ruling of a court of 23 judges. Part of the reason I'm assuming is because, okay, so you see animals do have rights according to Judaism, right? So you see that they have. Part of it has to do with the fact that the owner, right? If I own the animal, right? Is it fair to me that they should just put it to death? This animal could be worth thousands and thousands of dollars, right?
Also, I guess it's situational too. What if they were taunting?
Right? I'm sorry?
It could be situational too. They might have been taunted and whipped and.
Yeah. So he actually brings
like
over
a
here.
Matador, exactly. If a matador gets killed by the bull, it's like, well, yeah, that's
Then
not
technically, if you see a match, then it's legal. But it needs to be 23 judges.
He brings something very interesting. He says that when are you allowed to put an animal to death for goring? If it gored of its own accord. But if you are the one prompting the animal to gore and it kills in the process, that animal doesn't get put to death because you're the one who prompted it to gore. If you're the one prompting it to gore, then you are the one responsible, right? So now, he basically says, he brings a whole bunch of reasons why hunting is problematic. Number one is because we have a commandment of staying safe. And when you're hunting, in certain scenarios, you're putting your life in danger. You are not allowed to put your life in danger, okay? Let alone the fact that when a person puts their lives in danger, they are taking away from merits. That's why I've heard a lot of rabbis say that it's not the best thing for people to go skydiving, for example, right? Even though, right?
Just said that too.
Right? Even though skydiving is technically, if you look at statistics and data, I'm sure it's safe. And I personally have always wanted to do it. Maybe we'll do a towards skydiving event or a fake, the Sky Zone. What is it called?
Yeah, the Sky Zone.
I fly. They have like this iFly place. That I would do in a second. People do it, but I think it's expensive. But real skydiving, if something goes wrong, like Jerry Seinfeld says, then the helmet is wearing you for protection. Okay? He's like, he says in his show, like, what's the function of the helmet when you're skydiving? Like, if something goes wrong, can you kind of make it? Like, is it almost like, what's the purpose? Like, either, yes.
Actually, if you have a parachute, you can still have rough landings. It's for parachute.
I'm sorry?
There's actually a function.
What? For what?
When you're landing of the parachute, it's not a graceful event. You're actually dragged at the end. So
you're saying about the helmet. You're saying even if you land, it still helps. Yeah, for sure.
You land in a tree as well.
It's for a successful landing.
Right. But either way, so what I heard the rabbi say is because when you are putting yourself at risk, when you're involving yourself in risky activity, you are kind of depending in some level on some merits to make sure that you are okay. The truth is that we have miracles happening to us all the time. Believe it or not, on your drive to the Torch Center tonight, things could have gone wrong. Thank God they didn't. But believe me, okay, I was in 2 accidents last summer, and those could have just as easily never have happened. Seriously, like I've been driving for so long. I'm a pretty good driver. These 2 accidents that happened back to back were both not my fault and just totally out of my control. These things can happen to you. Every time you make it safe somewhere, is really God's protective hand. But that's in the realm of normalcy. If you put yourself in a situation where you're a little bit outside the realm of normalcy, then you are in greater trouble. So,
can you have it as a profession like football players? Because they're putting their life at risk each time they're on.
Playing football?
Yeah, because Rabbi Grossman was talking about that. Like, is football considered a non-philosophy?
That's a very good question. So I would tend to say there's a difference between consciously putting yourself in harm's way versus getting yourself involved in something where there's a possibility. I mean, what percentage of football players get injured? Does anybody have that information?
A lot.
Most?
A lot of them get concussion.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, that intensity of impact over and over and over.
I have to tell you, I'm not so much into. I'm into basketball, and the NBA site, they got into this very nasty habit of showing you in slow motion every time someone gets injured, and I'm like, why? Like, they show you, and look, he goes up for the rebound, and look at his foot, and they zero in on the foot, and then you see the foot curve as it's falling, and I'm like, oh man, let me just see the game. Why do I need to see this foot that's like, ugh? You know, it's nasty. I don't know what it is about it. But anyways, that's a very good question. But going back to the animals for a second, let me ask you a question. You know, scientists do a lot of research using rabbits, using rats, right? Sometimes they have to spray in the eyes of rabbits, for example, to see what kind of an effect it has on the eyes. Is that allowed? So again, depends. If it's for the use of protecting, of saving mankind, if it's for a productive use, if it's for science, if it's for medicine, could be that's okay. For the football analogy, I'm not sure. I don't know how to answer that. It's hard to say. Other sports, I would definitely say it's fine. Baseball, hockey is a little bit dangerous. Basketball, you could roll your ankle, but it's nothing crazy. Football can be pretty bad, but they're pretty well equipped. No, they're full of padding. They look double their size.
Yeah.
What about American Ninja Warrior?
The ankle at which you fall, that's the most dangerous thing.
What the?
If his neck is not essentially protected, there's nothing you can do for the neck, and that's what's really dangerous.
Yeah.
And even though you have padding, it doesn't change the fact that your brain can shake inside your head.
Yeah. Is that what a concussion is?
Well,
Yeah, it's your
So
brain.
it's very scary. The puck is like metal that's covered in rubber, and I don't think people are protected over here. Goalies are, right. Not the players. And there have been deaths in the crowd and in this game of the NHL from the puck. It's scary, you know.
It breaks the highlight.
So a couple issues with hunting. You're causing pain to animals.
Go to a hockey game.
Huh?
That'd be horrible. You go to a hockey game, and it's like, that's it.
Yeah, that's awful.
They also have sharp blades on their feet, sometimes accidents.
Right. So a couple issues with hunting is causing pain to animals, destructiveness, endangering oneself, okay, going against the established Jewish custom apparently.
But wait, how do you endanger yourself if you
So, hunting, sometimes people hunt bear, sometimes people hunt wild animals.
Hunt a deer.
So it could be, if it's not a dangerous situation, then that's not an issue, but a different thing is an issue. Possible issues include putting yourself in danger. Yes, Tzvi?
You hear about the hunter in Zimbabwe that killed him. Oh, he didn't kill the elephant, but he does that, and it fell on him and crushed him to death.
Oh my gosh. That's scary. Yikes.
He was illegally, I think it was illegal, the hunting he was doing.
I'm pretty sure elephants are protected.
You can't sue the insurance if it was illegal.
I think you can sue them.
That's immediately where you go. You can't sue them.
I have a question. So, I think it's easy to rationalize using animals for medical purposes, medical research, because you can say, well, not only is it helping mankind, but it could also be helping the animals by protecting them from whatever disease they have and by subjecting them to treatments. But for cosmetic industry, it's harder. It's a vanity that is. You're serving man by vanity. It's not health. It's not medical.
Right. I didn't mean to refer to cosmetic.
No, I'm just wondering.
Yeah. So I would agree with you on that. If it's just for that, then that would I would like to think that would be different.
You get cosmetic stuff that says not tested on animals. If they can do it, then everyone can do it.
Right.
No, I mean some of the drugs and some of the things have to be tested on.
Not drugs. I'm talking cosmetics.
Oh, cosmetics.
Drugs.
Yeah.
I agree. People come
Cosmetics
first.
are vanity. It's not
Yeah.
actually a need.
Yeah, cosmetics I think, but like medical use, I think it's.
Yeah, of course.
People come first, except in a bullfight.
Right.
I'm rooting for the bull.
So what's interesting, there's a Noda Yehuda. There's a famous commentator. His name is the Noda Yehuda, and he did research, and he found that the only time it talks about hunters in the Torah, is regarding Nimrod and Esav, who were two of the most evil people that ever lived in the Torah. Nimrod was the evil emperor, the first person to really question the supremacy of God. Okay? And then you have the wicked Esav, who we know was the forefather of Amalek. Right? And these are the two people that hunted for sport. So the Noda Yehuda says that it's not in line with Jewish ethics to be involved in this kind of activity for sport.
Well,
Now,
Rabbi, I got a question.
yes.
For you. If you said that it's permissible to watch a bull
I never said it's permissible. In fact, I was about to continue now with Chacham Ovadia, who says there is a concept of misayeya lidvar avera. When you are buying the ticket to the bullfight, you're keeping it going. Coming to watch the bullfight, you are promoting this activity, and therefore you are, what's the word, aiding? There's a legal term for this. Aiding and abetting this misdemeanor. So even though you're not the one directly, flicking the bull's, and you're not the one that's actively depriving it of sleep, and you're not the one that's smacking it, your attendance is promoting this kind of behavior. And that is called Misaya Lidvar Aver, which is partnering with a destructive person. Yes?
But you could say the same thing about the rodeo.
Ein hachinami. Ein hachinami in Hebrew means, you're right, Chaim. I am not saying that bullfighting is okay, and that bullfighting is not okay to the exclusion of a rodeo. I personally don't know what goes on in the rodeo, but if this kind of activity goes on the rodeo, that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right. If you're hurting animals, you're hurting animals, right?
Someone on Facebook asked the question.
What's the question?
What if it's not for sport? What if it's to do with population control for farming?
I think
Who's asking the question?
Someone keen.
It sounds like they're asking
Sarah Keene.
It sounds like a specific question, like javelinas are a dangerous animal that destroy property, kill animals that are they're pests, but they're also dangerous to humans. In more than just destruction of property and wealth.
Talking about lions,
They're
badgers.
Sorry?
wild boars.
They're wild boars, wild Russian boars.
Wow.
They're about like yay tall.
No, they can
Yikes.
be bigger. They can be
No,
bigger.
Russian boars are.
Russian.
Yeah.
That's
Javelinas
scary.
aren't so bad, but there's also Russian boars.
They've been chased by a hawk.
And
But that's why
the
they-
javelinas and the wild boars are often encouraged to be hunted by the state for population control, for safety, for protecting humans.
And then also the same.
But it is endangering your life to be hunting them because they can be shot many times and still kill you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but like if you're living in a place where you have nature all around you and they come to
Yeah,
you
so
to
every situation is different.
protect
If you're living in Houston and you have a job in a car, you don't need to volunteer for the task
No.
force.
Right.
But if you live in
But if you're
Mount
living
Bellevue-
in the Amazon and you're wearing
No.
loincloth and
No, even if you live in Mont Bellevue or you're surrounded by woods, they'll come onto your
that
property.
too. Yeah, like if I was living in the country and I had to be worried about a grizzly bear and protect my family, that's not Tzar Balei Chaim. That's
But
a
you wouldn't go-
that's a necessity.
Also, I have another
There's a
question,
difference between
though.
necessity
Yeah,
and
but you
needless.
wouldn't go to the woods to hunt the bear.
No,
You would wait
right.
for
I
them
would
to
not
come.
go to the woods to hunt the bear. I would keep a gun in case I needed to shoot and kill the bear to save my
Right.
family.
So I have another, I guess, question
Yeah.
related on hunting.
Yes.
So can goy hunt?
Can a goy hunt?
Yeah.
Goy can do
For
whatever he
food.
wants.
To eat.
Oh, for food
Yeah,
to
they
eat.
don't-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Humanely. They
Yeah.
still have to be, and they have to kill it before they do anything like cooking, because that's
Yeah.
what the 7.
yeah,
Put
yeah.
it this way: what we're talking about of doing it needlessly and for sport, whatever. That's for us who hold ourselves to a higher standard. That doesn't mean that when they do it, it's right. It's just they're not held to
Well,
that
no,
standard.
I guess what I'm going to say is that with the deer population, initially it gets so much that deer start getting sick and dying if it's not kept in control because...
Oh, that's why you have seasons?
Yeah, that's why you have seasons.
Okay.
It's very interesting because I would tend to think that God created the world in a way where things have a natural way of keeping, I guess maybe not.
Killed their
Well,
predators.
we killed them.
That's right. If we
Yeah.
disturb the food chain, then everything gets messed over.
wolves
That's why
killed-
mosquitoes. What is the function of mosquitoes? Anybody know?
To
Maybe
miserable
the
our life?
To make our lives miserable?
Don't they feed like the
Just
frogs?
Just like the flies.
They're like spiders.
They
I
feed the frogs.
am arachnophobic. Okay. When I was in second grade,
Guys.
it was the eve of Yom Kippur, and I saw a spider in the light, and I grabbed my hockey stick, and I got on a chair, and I started trying to kill the spider, but not realizing that the spider was on the other side of the glass of the light. I lost my balance. I fell on my arm. With a couple hours to Yom Kippur, I broke my arm. I had to go to the hospital. They had to fix my arm. It was awful. I don't know if that's what triggered my arachnophobia, but I'm arachnophobic. Now, I'm not horrible. Thinking if I see a spider, okay. I'm not like some people that I know that will literally dash the opposite direction. Now, what keeps my sanity is the knowledge that, these spiders are keeping the world from being taken over by, like, ants and mosquitoes and all sorts of bad stuff. They're like the cops of that world. You know what I mean? They go around and keeping the population of those animals to a minimum. Okay. Now, same thing with gladiators. There's a Gemara that says that Jews have no business going to watch, people goring each other, goring people, goring animals. Okay. So
halachically also dogfight is not okay. Not for him.
Dogfights are illegal anyway.
Illegal.
So that comes
Hey, okay, really quiet.
Okay, so just to conclude this class, there's one more thing I want to discuss. How does this compare to visiting a zoo? We've discussed bullfighting. We've discussed hunting. We wanted to discuss now, is there any issue with going to visit a zoo?
Depends
Thoughts?
how humanely the animals are treated.
Yeah, it depends which zoo, and it depends.
Houston Zoo.
I don't know how humanely they treat the animals, but yeah, why not?
Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
No.
I think the
You've never been
zoo
to
is
the
a little
zoo?
different because some of the animals are already born in the zoo, so they're not feeling like they're missing to their natural nature.
Yeah, it depends what species.
So, what's very interesting here is Rav Ovadia brings stories of famous rabbis who write about their experiences in different countries seeing the animals. And they describe the beauty of God's
I was
creatures.
just thinking,
Right?
if you're going to look at this,
So, if the viewing of these animals is bringing you some sort of inspiration and awe and appreciation for the beauty of God's creatures, then it would seem to be okay. Rabbi Ovadia says that especially since we see other great Torah personalities that write about their amazing experiences. The Chida was in London, and he went to the menagerie in the Tower of London. Yes, Shira?
Oh, then I was going to wait till...
Okay. He went to the Tower of London, and he saw these beautiful, beautiful animals, and he writes about them. And another rabbi who went, it doesn't say where, but the way they were talking about their viewing of these animals makes it seem like it's permissible. So I remember when we were in high school, there was a week-long Hanukkah break, and it became revealed to everyone, including the teacher, that we were all going on a skiing trip. So the rabbi told us, listen,
From school?
I have nothing against you all going on a skiing trip, but do me a favor. You're religious boys in a yeshiva. Don't let the trip be all about you and your pleasure. Of course, have a good time and come back refreshed and enjoy yourself. But get something out of it. When you get to the top of that peak, when you get to the top of that mountain, say the following verse. Se'u marom einechem ure'u mi bara ele. Lift up your eyes, raise your eyes, and behold, who created these? Have any of you ever been skiing? One of the most beautiful things you can ever do is go skiing. You go up the chairlift, it's pristine air. You get up to the top, the view is magnificent, it's clear, it's healthy, and then you're going down the mountain. There's trees, the snow. It's beautiful. There's an unbelievable ability to take enjoyment and pleasure in God's handiwork when you look at nature. That's true about the world, and it's true about God's animals. You see a zebra, how majestic it is with the white and black contrast, right? The tiger, right? It's just so many beautiful. Even the snake is just magnificent. Shira?
So, well, first was skiing. I think that I agree that it can be used to appreciate your surroundings, but then some people do like these extreme sports, and then you're endangering yourself, and that's crossing that line.
I would agree to that. Definitely. Extreme sports.
You can do it without having such a steep slope. But as for the zoo, another thing about it that I think sets it apart and that it's good for people to go to the zoo is that zoos often, especially the good ones, the right ones, have research on these animals to preserve these animals. A lot of them are doing breeding for
doing better in the zoo than in their wildlife habitat.
Or at least protected from poaching. And then also there's breeding for some that are unable to breed successfully in the wild because the high rate of the cubs dying or something like that. Like the pandas are, I think, no longer on the endangered list because of zoo efforts.
Wow. Did you guys read or watch the SeaWorld fiasco where they discovered that these killer whales are being tremendously maltreated and whatever? Tortured. It's pretty awful.
Wasn't it closed down?
It's going to be closed down. One of them was closed down. The one in San Antonio, apparently its days are numbered. I don't know. There's one in San Diego, Danielle? Was that one closed down or it's still open? You see the power of money. Money talks, my friends. If you have enough money to convince people to turn the other cheek, it will work. You know.
And it was at the expense of human lives too, because there were like a series of deaths at the place, and they.
Now, it's an important thing to realize that God promises us that the way we treat others and the way we judge others is the way we will be treated. And that is true with human beings, and that's true with animals. If you have a chance to kill an animal, even if it's a bug, and you choose not to because of this concept, unless you're totally disgusted, like a cockroach, I will forgive you if you kill the cockroach. Because for me personally, sorry, Tzvi, but for me, it's either the cockroach or me. My wife will not allow that cockroach to live, right? So I'm either, I have to kill it. But yeah.
I actually have a question about that.
Yes.
I remember when I was a soldier, we had the mice inside the office.
Yikes.
So we put, little one, not a big one, but we put a few traps, and one of them caught in the trap. They actually caught two in the trap. One of them I was able to pull him out of the trap and release him, and the other one was just stuck. His hair got stuck was too sticky. So I just felt like I wouldn't be able to pull him out without making him suffer, so I just had to drown him.
Yikes.
So what's morally okay? To try to pull him
Chaim,
out?
may Hashem grant you atonement.
No, he did the right thing.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
He was just
Okay, but listen, guys, I just want to close by saying that Hashem sees everything we do. And this entire discussion, guys, was really more about thinking about ourselves as people rather than these animals. Even though it's important to think about these animals, really what we're trying to do is elevate ourselves in the process. We don't want to be the type of people that derive pleasure in the suffering of other living things. We don't want to be the type of people that sport around at the expense of other living things, even if it's animals, even if it's not human beings. And if we treat other beings with respect, God promises us that we will be treated with the same favorable respect and judgment. And I would like to thank all of you for joining us here. And thank you, everyone.